This is the story of Miguel Montana, the only son of Tony Montana that stayed in Cuba, and his arrival to Miami in 2019 to reclaim his father's legacy. Is a trailer of a new movie to be released in 2024. Watch till the end and give your opinion about the story in the comments section to be eligible to win tickets to the premiere. In the year 2019, a son steps off a boat onto the shores of the United States. His name, Miguel Montana, the son of the infamous Tony Montana. On a day that sparkled with the promise of a new beginning, Miguel Montana arrived. His journey from the sultry heat of Cuba to the land of dreams and opportunities was not an easy one. This was not a vacation or a business trip. This was an odyssey, a homecoming. Miguel Montana, the son of Tony Montana, carried with him a legacy of notoriety and power. Tony Montana, a name that once echoed through the underworld, a name that invoked fear, respect, and a certain kind of awe. His father was a legend, a story told in hushed whispers. Tony Montana, the Scarface, was a ruthless drug lord, a kingpin who ruled with an iron fist and a killer instinct. And now, his son was here, stepping onto the very soil his father once commanded. Miguel was not an ordinary man. He had the eyes of his father, eyes that had seen the dark corners of the world and were not easily frightened. His demeanor was calm, yet there was an underlying tension, a hint of danger that marked him as a Montana. The moment Miguel set foot on American soil, he was welcomed by his father's old associates. Men who had seen the rise and fall of Tony Montana, men who understood the power that the name Montana held. Their eyes held a mixture of respect and anticipation. They had waited for this day, for the heir of Tony Montana to arrive. Miguel was not here for a reunion, he was here for a takeover. He was here to reclaim what was his by birthright, to finish what his father had started. Despite the welcoming smiles, he knew there would be challenges, power struggles, and bloodshed. But he was ready to face it all, ready to step into his father's shoes. With the blood of Tony Montana running through his veins, Miguel was ready to carry on his father's unfinished business. Miguel Montana, armed with his father's killer instinct and unyielding ambition, was ready to take over. Just as a king surveys his kingdom, Miguel began to inspect the empire left behind by his father. The underworld was not a place for the faint of heart, but Miguel was no ordinary man. He was the son of Tony Montana, a name that still echoed in the dark corners of the city. Stepping into his father's shoes, Miguel started to navigate the intricate web of his father's old business. It was complex, filled with risks and teeming with opportunities. He was cautious yet assertive, understanding that to master this game he needed to play his cards right. His father's former associates, once the pillars of the Montana Empire, now watched as the young Montana began to assert his authority. There were whispers of doubt, of course, but also of admiration. Miguel was no stranger to the whispers. He listened, he learned, and he adapted. His interactions with these associates were a delicate dance of power and persuasion. He needed them to understand that he was not just Tony's son, but a man in his own right. A man capable of leading, of making decisions that would not only sustain the empire but grow it. In this world, respect was earned, not given, and Miguel was ready to earn it. He began to take control, making strategic moves that demonstrated his cunning and strategic acumen. He was not just a player in this game, he was a game changer. His decisions were decisive, his actions swift. He showed no fear, no hesitation. He was ruthless when necessary, compassionate when it counted. He was a leader just like his father. Slowly but steadily, Miguel was asserting his dominance, reclaiming the throne that was rightfully his. He was not just surviving in the underworld, he was thriving. And with each passing day, his reputation grew. Just as his father had done, Miguel was making a name for himself in the underworld. Deals were made, alliances were formed, and bodies were buried. Miguel Montana was the new kingpin. This was no ordinary rise to power. Miguel Montana, the heir of Tony Montana, had a flair for the dramatic, a taste for danger, and a knack for making things happen. His bloodline was evident. He was a chip off the old block, and his father's killer instinct was his most valuable inheritance. The underworld had a new principal figure, and his name was Miguel Montana. One by one, he orchestrated drug deals that would make even the most seasoned criminals blush. He was involved in operations that spanned across continents. From the poppy fields of Afghanistan to the cocaine labs in Colombia, his reach was vast, and his influence was undeniable. In the dark alleys of Miami, deals were made under the cover of night. Briefcases exchanged hands, and in return, power shifted. The smell of danger was always in the air, but so was the scent of money. The stakes were high, but so were the rewards. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. There were those who dared to oppose him, those who thought they could take him on. They were sorely mistaken. His father's killer instinct came into play, and bodies were buried. Yet, despite the blood on his hands, Miguel managed to avoid the long arm of the law. He was a master of deception, a chameleon who knew how to blend in. He had a knack for being in the right place at the right time, always one step ahead of those who sought to bring him down. He was elusive, like a ghost in the night, leaving no traces, no evidence, nothing that could link him to his crimes. His father's legacy lived on in him. He was a mirror image of Tony Montana, a reflection of the past. Yet he was also his own man, carving a path that was uniquely his, building an empire that was distinctly Montana. Miguel Montana was more than just Tony Montana's son, he was the new Scarface. Miguel's reign was ruthless and unchallenged. He ruled with an iron fist, just like his father. The underworld trembled at the mere mention of his name, the son of Tony Montana, the new Scarface. His rule was unyielding, a reign of terror that left no room for dissent or rebellion. Every corner of the underworld was under his grasp. His influence, like a spider web, reached far and wide, ensnaring everyone within its deadly embrace. His control was absolute, his power uncontested. He had a firm grip on the reins of the underworld, and he wasn't about to let go. Miguel Montana, a name that commanded both fear and respect. His presence alone was enough to silence the most defiant of voices. His words were law, his orders the gospel. He was a king in his domain, and his subjects bowed to his will. His authority was maintained through a potent combination of fear, respect, and loyalty. Fear of his wrath, respect for his power, and loyalty bought by his generous hand. He had eyes and ears in every corner, his network of informants keeping him well informed and ahead of his enemies. He eliminated threats before they could even take form, nipping them in the bud with swift and decisive action. But his reign wasn't just about fear, it was about respect. Respect for the man who could navigate the treacherous waters of the underworld with ease. Respect for the man who could keep his empire running like a well-oiled machine. His rule was efficient, his decisions precise. He was a leader who knew how to play the game and play it well. He was a master strategist, always one step ahead of his adversaries. His mind, sharp as a razor, was his most potent weapon. His plans were intricate, his moves calculated. He was a chess player in the game of life, always thinking 3 moves ahead. Miguel Montana was a force to be reckoned with. He was his father's son in every sense of the word. He was Scarface's heir, and he wore the mantle with pride. His reign was a testament to his father's legacy, a reign of terror that would be remembered for years to come. In the underworld, Miguel was a prince. He had fulfilled his destiny. Just like a phoenix rising from the ashes, Miguel Montana, the son of the infamous Tony Montana, resurrected the legacy that was once thought to be lost in the abyss of time. His journey from the sandy beaches of Cuba to the glitzy, grimy streets of Miami was nothing short of epic. A son, left by his father in the tropical landscape of Cuba, had grown into a man of power, of influence, of fear. The blood of Tony Montana coursed through his veins, and with it he inherited his father's killer instinct. It was this lethal combination of blood and instinct that guided Miguel on his path to power. Miguel's arrival in the United States was not one of a stranger, but of a prodigal son. The associates of Tony Montana, men who once operated in the shadows of the underworld, welcomed him with open arms. They recognized the spark in Miguel, the same spark that had once ignited Tony Montana's reign. They saw in him not just the son of Tony, but the embodiment of Scarface himself. As the heir to Tony Montana's empire, Miguel proved that he was not just a prince, but a king in his own right. He seized control of his father's unfinished business with a ruthless grip, leaving no room for doubt about his capabilities. His rise to power was swift, his rule absolute. Miguel Montana was not just another player in the game, he was the game, but his journey was not without its dark corners. The path to power was littered with murder, betrayal, and drug deals, yet Miguel navigated through it all, leaving a trail of chaos and fear in his wake. His reign was a testament to his father's legacy, a legacy of power, fear, and respect. Miguel Montana, the son of Tony Montana, had truly returned. Scarface was back and more dangerous than ever before. Please give us your opinions in our comments and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more upcoming trailers.